You know how you're always told your Wi-Fi password needs to be this crazy, random jumble of letters and numbers? Well, it's not just your IT guy being difficult, I promise. It's actually the result of this decades-long war for control of the airwaves, a constant battle between hackers and engineers. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the secret history of Wi-Fi security. We'll go from its absolutely disastrous beginnings all the way to the digital fortresses we rely on today. And just so you know, this deep dive comes from a really comprehensive technical report by the experts over at RFI Detectives, who are part of Virtualization Options, LLC. This is actually part 9 of our 10-part series digging into their incredible findings on the standards that basically run our wireless world. So, let's get right to it. Why does every single tech person you've ever met insist on a Wi-Fi password that looks like a cat just walked across your keyboard? The answer is buried in the history of Wi-Fi security. And trust me, it's a way more interesting story than you might think. Okay, to really get this, let's think of it like sending a secret letter. First, you've got encryption. That's basically writing your letter in a secret code. Then there's authentication, which is like checking the mail carrier's ID to make sure they're legit. Key exchange, that's how you and your friends secretly agree on the decoder ring before you even send the letter. And finally, integrity is just making sure the letter's seal isn't broken. We're going to use these 4 ideas to judge every protocol we talk about today. And this right here, this is our roadmap. We're going to watch how each new defense was basically built on the wreckage of the last one. And our story, well, it starts with a protocol that was pretty much broken from the day it was born. WEP. So WEP, it stands for Wired Equivalent Privacy. The goal was right there in the name, to make a wireless connection just as secure as literally plugging in a cable. But as you're about to see, it became a legendary failure in the world of security. And I am not exaggerating here. The report we're drawing from calls it the canonical cautionary tale of cryptographic engineering gone wrong. I mean, that's not just a bad review. That's a security obituary. It wasn't just a little broken. It was fundamentally, catastrophically flawed right from the get-go. So how did it fail so badly? Well, the fatal flaw was that WEP kept reusing its secret key in a really predictable way. It was kind of like locking your front door, but leaving a little clue about the key's shape on the doorknob every single time. A smart thief wouldn't even need to pick the lock. They could just collect enough of those clues to make a perfect copy of the key. And yeah, it could be cracked in minutes with a basic laptop. Minutes! With WEP completely shattered, you can bet the industry was scrambling for a fix. First came WPA. It was meant to be a temporary patch, but it was quickly followed by WPA2, which became the trusted standard for over a decade, protecting billions of devices all over the world. WPA used this thing called TKIP, which was really just a software bandage for WEP's massive wounds. The good thing was, it worked on existing hardware, which was a huge deal for getting it adopted quickly. But the real upgrade was WPA2. It threw out all that old, broken math and brought in AES. We're talking the same powerful encryption standard used by governments and banks today. For a long time, we all thought we were pretty safe. But here's the twist. If WPA2 is using this supposedly unbreakable AES encryption, how could it possibly be vulnerable? Well, turns out the encryption itself wasn't the problem at all. The weakness was hiding in plain sight, in that digital handshake your device does with the router every single time you connect. And this slide shows the critical difference. An online attack is like a burglar trying thousands of keys at your front door. It's slow, it's really noisy, and you're probably going to notice. But WPA2 was vulnerable to an offline attack. A hacker could just record that one initial handshake, take it back to their own powerful computer, and then try billions of password guesses per second against that recording. See, they're not attacking your network anymore. They're just attacking a file. It was fast, it was silent, and this is exactly why a simple password was never, ever enough. To solve this silent offline threat, we needed a completely new way of doing that digital handshake. And that brings us to the current standard, WPA3. This wasn't just an improvement, it was a total redesign of that first contact, built from the ground up specifically to defeat that offline attack. Okay, so with WPA2, a scrambled piece of your password was part of that handshake, and that's the thing that could be stolen. WPA3, using a method called SAE, never does this. Instead, it performs this really clever cryptographic dance where your device and the router both prove they know the password without ever revealing anything about it that can be captured and attacked later. So the key takeaway is there is no vulnerable handshake to steal anymore. The entire vulnerability just disappears. And WPA3 didn't stop there. It also made something called management frame protection mandatory. Now, that sounds technical, but it just stops a common trick hackers use to kick you off your own network. And for all of us who use coffee shop or airport Wi-Fi, it introduced Enhanced Open, which actually adds encryption even on public networks that don't need a password. That means the person at the next table can't just easily snoop on what you're doing. It's a huge, huge win for privacy. So we've gone through the theory, we've walked through the history, but what does all of this actually mean for the Wi-Fi network in your home right now? Let's turn all this knowledge into action. This table really brings it all together. Just follow the encryption row and you can see the entire journey, from the completely broken RC4 in WEP all the way to the gold standard AES in WPA3. Now look at key exchange. We went from a simple, static key that was easy to steal to the vulnerable four-way handshake, and finally to the offline-proof SAE in WPA3. You can see how each step was a direct response to a failure in the one before it. So what should you do? Here's your checklist. First, log into your router settings. If WPA3 is an option, just use it, period. If you're stuck on WPA2, now you know exactly why that long, complex password is so important. It is your only real defense against that silent offline attack. And please, for the love of all that is good, make sure those older broken protocols like WEP and the original WPA are completely turned off. And finally, keep that firmware updated. This battle never really stops. And that leaves us with one final question to think about. In that constant tug of war between easy access and real protection, where does your own network land? The battle between convenience and security is always ongoing, but now you've got the knowledge to make the right choice.